I am so pleased to welcome back to the program President Leo Gerard, the International President of the United Steelworkers Union. USW.org is the website. President Gerard, welcome back.
Good to be on with you, Tom.
And one of the things that a lot of Americans may not know about you is that you are or were Canadian, right?
A little bit of both.
Yeah. So I was hoping to get your thoughts on what happened in Canada with the election of Mr. Trudeau, and what is the state of labor in Canada versus the state of labor in the United States. It seemed like more than anybody else on earth, you would know the answer to these questions.
I don't know about more than anybody on earth, but certainly more than some.
Yeah. So what do you think?
Look at I think. I'm not exactly excited about the way the vote turned out, and the fact that the Liberals got a majority government in a parliamentary system. But I am very, very pleased that Canada sent a very strong message that they've had it up to their ears with Stephen Harper. And many of my American friends, I've had the opportunity to tell them, look, Canada had the equivalent of a Tea Party before you Americans even thought of the Tea Party. And that was almost 20 years ago. A individual by the name of Preston Manning and Stephen Harper created something called the Reform Party, which was a extreme right-wing based sort of Midwestern Canadian party that really was about attacking government. But they were splitting the right-wing vote between, quote, conservatives and reform. So they worked together for several years about putting together a merger of the Conservative Party and the Reform Party, and they did. And Stephen Harper became the leader of the so-called Conservative Party. Mm-hmm. And he did the same kinds of things to the Canadian democratic system as we saw being done and being attempted to be done by right-wing extremists in the U.S. He did voter suppression. He created labor reporting rules that simply chew up a lot of labor's finances in order to report almost everything they do to the government. They passed something in Canada, it's called Bill C-51, which was the Canadian equivalent to the Patriot Act, only much worse than the Patriot Act. Group of people that could be meeting to talk about issues. Take, for example, the labor movement. You could have a bunch of folks meeting in a hall to discuss about how to overthrow the government in a electoral process, and the interpretation of C-51 could be such that we could be brought in and questioned over seditious behavior.
Whoa!
So I could go on and on about the right-wing stuff that he done. And
was it like in the United States?
The healthcare system.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, starving the healthcare system. So, in that regard, the fact that the Canadian population sent a clear signal that they had it up to their ears with Stephen Harper was a good thing.
Yeah. Is here in the United States, and there's an interesting piece in Politico about this right now, about how all 40 members, or however many there are, they keep their names secret, other than apparently Jim Jordan. How these 40 members of the so-called Freedom Caucus, the formerly Tea Party caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives, are all largely funded by one of the Koch front groups, or specific, number two, by Koch Industries itself, the corporation. Was it similarly a couple of cranky right-wing libertarian billionaires who funded the Reform Party in Canada, the original Tea Party up there, or did that just... Go ahead.
Yeah, the original Reform Party was funded by a bunch of, you call it, cranky oil billionaires.
Yeah.
Its base was in Alberta, and they brought in really right-wing stuff into Alberta, and it was funded by, at that point in time, by, as you called them, cranky oil billionaires.
Yeah.
Since then, they've brought in, for the first time ever, we've had a reduction in, when I say first time ever, I'm exaggerating, probably the first time in 25 years, we've had a reduction in the publicly financing of federal elections. But we had an expansion of, quote, third-party funding, similar to super PACs, right?
Right.
Now, in the Harper regime, they actually put a cap on how much third-party funding could be done. But the thing was so perverted that you could easily get around it. Mm. And the other thing that Harper did, which he played to his advantage, because the right-wing conservative government had raised the most cash, both from third-party funding and from other sources, that he doubled the length of time that the Canadian election would take place. Normally it's 7 to 8 weeks, and he added another half a dozen weeks. And the reason he did that is he wanted to play the money card. He had much more money at his disposal than either the Liberals or the New Democrats. And so that also came back to bite him, because the Canadian public just saw right through that. Right. And you know, unlike the American election that seems to never end, in Canada, once you get past a half a dozen weeks, people are starting to say, you know, enough is enough of this silliness.
Right. Yeah. So we have about 2 minutes left. I'd love to get your thoughts. We're talking with Leo Gerard, the International President of the United Steelworkers, and in my opinion, one of the leading light, in fact, frankly, in the entire labor movement. One of the smartest guys in this business, and one of the toughest. I so admire you, sir. I just put that out there.
Thank you very much.
I realize it sounds probably gratuitous, but it's not. I'm curious your thoughts on Justin Trudeau, the new Prime Minister of Canada, purportedly supporting the Trans-Pacific Partnership. How does that fit in with his being progressive?
Well, look, he's not a progressive. And that was one of the disappointments. The desire to get rid of Stephen Harper was so great that the New Democratic Party, when the election was called, was in fact leading in the polls. But as the election went on, and some of the stuff that Harper was able to pull off, people started to get worried that if the New Democrats didn't win the election, we could again be stuck with Stephen Harper. And the New Democrats is basically a progressive labor party. And the fact that it's called New Democrats isn't to be considered with New Democrats in the U.S.
Right.
So in that regard, Trudeau and the Liberals ran on the left. But history has shown over the last 50 years that when Liberals run on the left, they always govern on the right. And so Trudeau has no intention whatsoever of standing up against the TPP, whereas Thomas Mulcair, who was leading the New Democratic Party, made it clear that he would not support the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and he gave all the good reasons why, the same good reasons that we have Democrats in the Congress in the U.S. opposing the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It does nothing. It's not about trade. It's about setting a financial framework for multinational finance and multinational corporations to operate with the least interference as possible.
Right.
And there's no currency manipulation language. There's nothing about state-owned enterprise. The rules of origin, the rules of origin are scary.
Yeah.
You got 45% rules of origin for certain auto parts if they're produced in a TPP country. Well, TPP country, just to name three, Brunei, Malaysia, and Vietnam.
There you go. Leo Gerard, the International President of the United Steelworkers. Hang on just a second, sir.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Guy always steps on me. President Gerard, thanks so much for being with us today.
Oh, glad I could be on for a while. And
great talking.
My answers were too long. But
No, it was brilliant. Thank you.